Have you ever wondered what is the fastest march in Kiss of War? Well, in this video, we're gonna uncover that and tell you exactly how to build it with this Loubna guide. Greetings, commanders, and welcome back to another Kiss of War video. My name is Eagle, and we are a sponsored content creator for Kiss of War. In this video, we are doing an officer highlight, and we are featuring Loubna, the deadly dancer. Now, Loubna is one of those officers that are obtained by the wheel. She's a premium officer that is unlocked in a bit advanced stage in the game. But she is one of the best officers and one of the fastest. And in this video, we're going to uncover that and break down her skill, like prioritization, what are her skills are, how should you build them, how should you upgrade her talent trees, what are her different roles in the game, and what are her best officer pairings, and what is that fastest officer pairing in the game. And I can tell you that she is one of those officers. Now, to start with, first things first, I would like to thank you so much for tuning in last Saturday. It was an amazing stream. I really had a lot of fun in it, and I hope you guys also had a lot of fun. We had a lot of winners, and we're going to be doing more and more of these live streams where we give out some really nice rewards, and we have some fun with you guys doing some raiders over here, ghost rebels over there. It's all good and games. Now, for Loubna over here, let's talk about her skills first. We have the Spying Shadow skill over here, which deals a massive damage multiplier. And I can tell you, that's actually a pretty solid damage multiplier for a skill that actually deals damage in a radar form. And this is actually the only skill in the game that deals damage in a radar form. What that means is that you can hit marches that are behind your march. And not only, for example, like Grace in a half circular form in front of your march, rather than like the warship, for example. The warship actually hits in a circular, like a full circle radius, and this is exactly how this march also hits. So you will be hitting targets all around 360 around this march and dealing 1200 damage multiplier, which is a pretty decent damage multiplier compared to other damage multipliers in the game. And also, you'll be reducing the damage received by 30%, and like increasing the damage received by 30%, reducing the attacks of the enemies, the attack reduction by 30%, meaning that they will be taking 30% more damage, and their attack will also be reduced by 30%, so that you'll be able to dealing more damage to them, and their attack will be reduced for a full 2 seconds, which is also pretty solid. That's 2 rounds. You'll be able to deal more damage and receive less damage. Now, for our second skill over here, this one is the traditional damage increase against NPCs and invaders. It can go all the way up to 50%. North African Beauty is the name. Song and Dance is her third passive skill, and what it does is that it increases the infantry defense by a total of 30%, but also, once you are disengaging from a battle, it will increase the march speed of your troops by a total of 60%. And let me tell you, 60% is a huge amount, especially for 5 seconds. You can disengage from any fight. And knowing the fact that Loubna is an infantry officer, and infantry are the fastest units in the game, this could be a huge factor. And I will tell you how to use this in order to always get the artwork in Raiders and run with it without being caught. This is like a trick that we've been using when like some of us in the guild have Loubna at a higher level, and we've been using that, and it's actually really insane. So we're gonna tell you how to use this skill in order to get that. For our first skill, which is a final blow, when your troop strength are below 60%, you will increase the normal attack damage that you're dealing by a total of 60% when that is over. That means that you will be dealing more damage when you are below 60% than when you are at 100% troop capacity, which is kind of insane because this amount of damage is insane. That means it adds even more like damage dealing and burst damage dealing during the fight, even when you run low on your March HP. Now, for the last one, which is when she is awakened, your first active skill will be enhanced by 200 extra damage multiplier, making it to a 1400 damage multiplier. Let me tell you guys, 1400 is the best AoE damage multiplier in the game. Reason being is that it hits multiple targets in a radar form. Secondly, it has actually the highest damage multiplier as AoE in this game, but not as single targets, because single targets we have Catherine, which is 1600 when awakened, and we have Lilith, which is 1800, which is also the highest in the game. For single targets, but still it is a great damage multiplier because you will be able to hit 3 targets with that, and it is pretty solid. Now, it also will add another thing, which is the active skill damage dealt by these targets will be reduced by 20% for 5 seconds, so that's even another debuff that these targets will be having on themselves. So she is also a great debuffer when it comes to field fights, when it comes to like hit and run situations. She is an amazing debuffer. 3 debuffs in total, reducing the attack, reducing the skill damage, and also making these targets vulnerable to take more damage throughout the fight for a full 2 seconds, and this one is for a full 5 seconds. That's pretty solid. Now, for the skill prioritization, how would I build Loubna? First things first, once you get her from the wheel, she's only unlockable throughout the wheel. So once you get her from the wheel, you have to get her at like 10 badges from the wheel in order to actually unlock her and start or be able to spend legendary badges on her, which I do recommend. But for the priority of legendary badges, I think you should wait for the top tier list videos where we will do these. Like, we will start these doing probably next week. Because these actually need a lot of research. But once we do these, I highly recommend saving up your legendary badges until you see these videos so that you would know which playstyle you are currently playing or needing, and based on that you would know where to spend your legendary badges on which legendary officers or even epic officers as well, because we're doing tier lists for every single officer in the game for different situations. Now, for the activation of skills, I would go and max out Spying Shadow. Hands down, this is the best skill that she has. I would ignore North African Beauty because I wouldn't be using her as a jungler unless in like very rare situations where you should it highly depends on, like, for example, there was a situation in terms of the counter attack event where you could go in between countries, or you could have actually just teleported in between countries, but you can also use a Loubna march in also like to fastly march around countries and kill like bio rebels that spawned in the Europe map. That's the only situation that I see her using this skill. So I wouldn't really focus on this skill at all. I would not put a single point over here. Instead, I will be moving to this skill over here because this skill is highly 30% infantry defense is a big number, and that is activated throughout the whole fight, which gives you a hell lot of sustainability, because as you know, infantries don't have that much high of an HP, so this is really solid to give you like some sort of high sustainability, but also, which is more important than that, give you the march speed when you are out of combat, so that hit and run situations are always winnable for you, and you get really positive trades out of these. So this is pretty solid over here. Now, the way you can actually grab the artwork in the Raiders event is that the moment you actually pick it up with Loubna, say that you actually managed to pick it up in the first place. So the march should be Loubna and Angelica. If you don't have Angelica, you could use Riven as well, or Evelyn as like alternatives. But the most important one is going to be Loubna, because if she gets targeted, which she is going to be targeted because she has the artwork, you will have 50% less march speed when you have the artwork. Now, the reason, or the way that I would use her, is put a full march of level 1 infantry units in within this march. Reason being is that level 1 infantry units are extremely useful because they are the fastest units in terms of the tiers. So if you're using tier 5 infantry units, they will have more sustainability, more attack and more counter attack and whatnot, but they will not have the speed that the infantry tier 1 units would have. However, they will be squishy. So if you were engaged by another infantry march and you manage to disengage, for example, you would need an Italian march next to it so that it can slow the other targets down that are trying to chase you, and you manage to disengage from one single march, you would be at 60% march speed for 5 seconds, meaning that for the next 5 seconds, you will have 10% extra march speed. And the reason being is that you canceled the 50% debuff coming in from the artwork, and you have 10 extra percent march speed so that you can run even faster. And this way, you always have to disengage from the fight and run faster. You probably would need to disengage 2 times if they're trying to hard chase you, but I think one disengage would be more than enough to actually boost you to reach a like nearby objective where you can actually place the artwork. And this is exactly what you should like everyone should be using when they're trying to capture the artwork. Natalia and a Loubna, like 2 different marches. Natalia for slows and Loubna for running away with the artwork, basically. And this is how you secure it. Now, after that, I would go for the final blow. So far we have went for Spying Shadow, Song and Dance, and then final blow. Max that out, and then finally go for Northern African Beauty. Obviously, like final blow is pretty solid. Although I wouldn't highly recommend using marches below 60%, but in that case, you can actually use them. Sometimes there's field fights that do require you to spend every single last bit of your march's capacity, and this would make it an ideal situation for you to actually use that, simply because you would even be dealing sustainable damage over the period of your march's HP. Even if you go low in HP, you'll still be dealing some sort of high damage on the field, and this is the main reason I would go for this as a third skill. Now, talking about the talents, she has the infantry, jungle, and mobility tree. As we said before, we don't really want to use her as a jungler, so jungler tree is a no-no. But there is a very important thing over here. So I will show you my Angelica talent tree, because I was building Angelica. You have to build Angelica and Loubna the same way, by the way, because these two are the best pairing in terms of infantry in the game right now. So the way I was using Angelica is that I was using her actually for the hit and run or the artwork chases. So I was going for a full mobility build. Now, the way you can actually do that, this build is mainly basically used for raiders and other purposes, but not ideally for field fights. Like, I wouldn't be using this for field fights unless you're doing a hell lot of hit and run, and that could be a possibility as well. Now, the way I would do the mobility tree build is that I would go all the way down the infantry march, max that out, because you will having only infantry units in this march, pure infantry, and I would increase it by 20%, which is pretty solid. Reason being, I will not go for this ability over here, which is Agile Breakthrough, is that I still don't know how this ability actually operates in the field. So it says here, when troops only consist of infantry, there's a 10% chance of increasing the speed by 4% or 20% for the next 2 seconds when you max it out. The reason I don't really trust this over here, first things first, I don't know what actually triggers it. Is it like just moving in the field? Like every 1 second, there's a chance that you actually can trigger this? Or do you have to be in combat to actually trigger it? It doesn't really say anything on how what the trigger is, and that actually, like, it's like pure chance over here. 10% chance is very low as well, and it's only 2 seconds. So I don't think it's really worth to go all the way down here. Rather than, once you have got the infantry march, immediately go to the mobility one, max out rapid march, then afterwards go for all the way to disturbance, and then max out total march. This way, you would get the maximum possible amount of extra march speed percentage that is consistent also throughout the field while you are marching, and not just depending on chance like this one over here. Now, once you have done that in the mobility tree, and then you would go ahead and max out swoop down, and and then infantry attack, and then maximum lastly infantry mastery. You go back to the to this tree over here, and then you max out everything all the way to rapid breakthrough, and then you have a level 60 maxed out either Loubna or Angelica, because they have to be at the same build. However, if you're trying to do another build for SVS, like purely focusing on infantry attack and actual field fights, like a build for field fighting that is actually pretty solid, the way I would go with this build is starting off with the infantry tree over here, maxing out swoop down, then going for high morale, and then afterwards I would go for infantry attack, max that out, because you need the attack over the health, because you're going to be doing a lot of hit and runs. Even if you're still in the battlefield, you don't have to necessarily run back to your base. You just have to disengage from the fight if you're being chased down, because you can easily do that in the battlefield. And tank, like the tank marchers have no chance in following you, especially if you're using Loubna as well. You max out infantry attack, and then you go for agile breakthrough, and finally infantry mastery. You go back to the mobility tree, max out rapid march, max out tactical assault to get that sweet 5% more skill damage, and then once you reach total notch, you have two choices over here: either dead eye shot or gorilla. I guess that's the name. Now, the reason I would actually choose this one over Dead Eye Shot, even though Dead Eye Shot gives you actually 10% more damage dealt, which I think is also pretty solid. However, I do believe that this one is more effective. Reason being is that the way that infantry marches work in the battlefield is that you should be looking for other infantry marches, or ideally tank destroyer marches. If you find a tank destroyer march, you should be able to follow them easily, because tank destroyers are extremely slow. Now, tank destroyers will not engage with you in a like one-on-one, because if they do, then they're gonna lose anyways. So the reason why I would go for this is that they will be trying to run to their tank marches in order for their tank marches to actually engage with your infantry march, and in that case, you're usually like taking counterattack damage. So the reason why I would go for this is that it will even decrease the counterattack damage by a 10%, which is pretty solid. And in that case, you'll be taking less damage and dealing normal attack damage in return, because like more normal attack damage, because you're losing less amount of troops. So this one is actually pretty solid, and I would highly recommend going for it before Dead Eye Shot. But if you're looking for pure damage and you just like to engage, you don't care about your HP, or if you have a lot of troops or a lot of infantry troops, you can easily like refill that march and send it out, then I would go for Dead Eye Shot, because this way you would be dealing a maximum amount of damage on the battlefield as well. And then put some points in Rapid Breakthrough, and that is your infantry pure march damage dealing march over here. So let's go back to Loubna, and that is the way basically you have to build her. She has only one outfit in the game. It doesn't really add anything. It's just a really cool outfit for her, but it doesn't really get you any buffs or boosts. So technically, that was it for the build of Loubna. Now let's talk about the pairings and the best pairings with Loubna. As we said, the best pairing so far in the game with Loubna is Angelica. These two are amazing together. They deal a lot of damage, and I can tell you, with a full tier 5 infantry march over here, it can be really devastating. Like it was dealing more damage to my tank march, then I'm actually dealing more damage to them. I was using tier 4s, but I did not expect that they would be dealing more damage to me than I'm dealing to them. These two over here deal a lot of damage, and I've seen them being used also in the Gorgon Cannon event, and they do deal a hell lot of damage over there. So that is definitely a thing to use. But if you're looking for maximum AoE damage on the battlefield, and there's like a huge fight coming in, or maybe in raiders as well, that's actually pretty useful too. Then I would go for Riven. Riven is your choice for secondary. It's more free-to-play friendly choice if you're trying to pair it up with Loubna. I would go for Riven simply because she has the AoE damage, which is a pretty solid damage multiplier for an epic officer, which is 1150 over here, damaging 3 targets and also reducing their march speed even further. So if you're trying to chase down a target, which is really happening, but if that is the situation, then you will be able to even slow them down. You have damage dealt increase, you have infantry speed and attack over here. So it's a really solid combination if you're trying to go maximum AoE with that march. Also, Evelyn is always your secondary choice if you're looking for some healing, some support, some extra sustainability in the battlefield, and support for your other marches that are trying to like be in the battlefield. Although I wouldn't really highly recommend it, but it's still a pretty solid march if you're trying to just go with pure infantry, and it does deal some solid damage as well, so I'll give it to that. So basically, these are the infantry marches. We don't really have many infantry officers, and I wouldn't highly recommend pairing her with a, like for example, a general officer like Chloe or whatever, because that will just decrease the efficiency of this officer in the battlefield, and it's not really the best pairing I would go for. But Loubna and Angelica is the best pairing, hands down. I would definitely focus on these two. I'm actually building my Loubna as we speak right now. I'm trying to max her out to get the maximum potential, and sorry, Angelica, actually. I'm trying to max her out, and then once I do that, I will start working on my Loubna as well. I think she is amazing, and these two pairings together can actually deal a lot of damage in the battlefield. Now, commanders, I hope you liked this video. We have a lot of exciting videos coming up soon with a tier list. They are in the oven cooking as we speaking right now, and I can tell you that the tier lists are going to be amazing. It's going to help everyone out. It's going to be free to play tier lists. There's going to be some like epic commander tier lists, legendary commander tier lists, best field fighting tier lists, everything that you need to know. And for each situation, we'll have a tier list for that. And this way you would know which situations that actually mostly occur in your server or on your daily activities. And then you would know which officers to focus on based on that. These tier lists will definitely constantly be updating every couple of months whenever there are new officers coming in. As we heard, there's probably going to be new Japanese officers as well coming in. So there's a lot of things coming into the game right now. I'm super excited about these changes. I hope you guys are. If you're not subscribed yet to the channel, feel free to do that. If you like the videos, like this video. It will help out a lot growing the channel. We are almost at 2,000 subscribers. And with you, we can definitely reach that. Thank you so much for your support. And as always, Eagle out.